Welcome, everybody. My name is Dr. Lou Jensen, and this is the weekly gathering of the I&E Network. We've been in creative art guild or cooperative for a long time now. We've been helping each other develop our skills, discover our skills, develop our skills, master something, and learn to share it in the economy better and better for a long time. Everyone in the show tonight are masters and friends of our circle, members of our network, and if you're new to what we're doing, you just picked us up on the social media this week and have dropped in on my Google Plus account or on YouTube, welcome. We enjoy anybody new that comes along. We're a little bit eccentric, slightly crazy bunch, but we really do enjoy playing with what we're playing with. I don't know what that is coming from. I'm getting signals from somewhere. Anyway, as we move into these sessions, we are tackling what we call the Artistic Business Academy. As you try and develop your own creativity and uncover your own individual potential, every one of us struggle in the beginning stages so much, especially as we start to try and market ourselves and try and charge for our work. And so this front end of the year is always this period where I try and address the skills that I think the business side requires. I started myself, my own career 38 years ago, and took me quite a while to get the fire burning and get it up and running, but I managed to do pretty well with that, and eventually I was able to retire from my dental career and do this full time, and I've been doing that for a long, long time now. We set up a company called Profitable Hobbies 35 years ago, and that company sells and trains and service and supports people who have purchased our equipment, and then we support with the I&E Network this side of linking each other to a point that we can help solve problems and figure out new opportunities and how to develop and take advantage of all of those. So as I start into my webinar tonight, I've got a series of slides I want you to kind of sit in here with me and kick back and enjoy. It's usually a good time to pull up something you can take some notes on. What I try and do with all of this part is to have some one idea hit you tonight strong enough that it will maybe literally even change the course of the rest of your life. I think that's how it works. I really do. I don't understand the timing of things well, but I do think everything happens for a reason, and all of a sudden things lined up and now we can see our way forward. And to me, those are answers to little prayers. Those are the things that we're all struggling with individually in our lives. I don't know anybody's life that's not challenged, and often quite seriously. And yet how you manage those challenges and how you move forward are the things that I think are most, God, it's just wonderful. The overcoming is not overcoming our circumstances, the great goal of living. No matter what circumstances you find yourself in, sure there's a way over and under and through anything. As my brother-in-law Chris always says, there's always a way. There is always a way. As we start in tonight's show, I'm talking about what this element of trying really, I think, really represents. Because if we don't try, then there is no way we can succeed. The rub is where most people think they're trying. They're doing a little, but nowhere near enough. And it is almost in every element of your life, there's an art to it. And the more you can literally really zero in and really focus your individual efforts, the more the results will turn out what I think you're looking for. And when I started playing with the idea of LifeWise about 5 years ago, I just thought, you know, there's some concepts and some ideas that are more important than others. And I'm putting this all together for my grandkids because there's just a lot of things that Grandpa would like to share with the younger generation now that I hope will help them get a little bit better start. When we jumped onto Google Plus, when it first came about, had absolutely nothing in here, and now it just keeps growing and it keeps growing because I keep nudging it. I hit this at least an hour or two a day, and it does make a difference. You start to see trends. And what's so valuable here is for Google Plus to measure this progress for you. This is exposure, exposure, exposure. We are all becoming publishers. We're all having a certain like-minded following because of the way we're doing social media. And it's so fun for me. I don't watch this really close anymore, but every time I go in, I pulled it up today and I went, oh, hell, nearly 1.7 million. It's coming along. I like the concept of how it started was just my story, but it became our story very quickly. And to finish this triple combination, we just need your story now to mix with our circle. I think the strength of us all doing things together is just phenomenal. If you noticed on Facebook, Gary Price left for Texas with his set of his people, the famous people that are sculpted on the desks or on the benches, and I've done several things with those items. And then he got down there and put them all out, and he posted yesterday, he says, geez, I just realized I should be doing a whole set of women's, famous influencing women in those same circumstances. And so here's a little tiny idea moment, comes along, I can't wait to talk to him about how did it happen. What triggered the thought when he put them all out in this display, some new building or library, bought all of them, the whole set, and he delivered them, drove them down, or is driving them down as we speak. But what you're looking for when you're trying to take on this entrepreneurial side of a hobby is challenging, it's intimidating at a point, but my hell, if you can't get a hold of somebody that's done it and dig out some information and get some answers, I don't know what more to help you. It's a passionate prescription. I handed out pills my whole flipping professional career, but all I hand out now is this little prescription of what you put in your mouth and chew, and what you chew on you're going to swallow, and what you swallow you are going to become. And I'm playing with the concept. Remember the old statement that was the philosophical statement in the 1800s was, I think, therefore I am. And I said, hell with that. I dream, therefore I can become. It's not who you are or who you have been. It's what could you be, and how different could that make in the marketplace. I talk a lot about lightning over my career, and if you can just sense the difference in these two individual images. Business is better when it is done this way, not this huge unmanageable explosion. Life doesn't happen like this very often, but if you can predictably have it strike right where you want it, now you've got a chance of actually succeeding. And when I started playing as a kid with the Imagination Committee, my whole brain changed. I got a chance to rummage around in my brain with different concepts, different reflective, ricocheting kind of ideas that helped me think at alternatives. And so when those creative ideas come along, I remember distinctly when the first Forever letter showed up. And all I did is say, you know what, I could take anybody's letter and etch it on a piece of glass, piece of crystal, piece of stone, put it just about anywhere, and have it be a Forever letter. But you have to do something with them. When the ideas show up, like if tonight, you could have sat and listened to me for 10 years, and tonight could be the night. One image, one concept, one idea that just steps up and just burns a hole right through you. And then all of a sudden, what I'm after the most is the sustaining of the future of handmade, fine, artistic things. I'm so convinced that the robotic artificial intelligence world is just going to plow through humanity. It's going to change life and living so dramatically that none of us can even see how much that change is going to happen. But if you can be the person who either does the work or you're the person who does the encouragement, which is more important? I don't see how you can get around this. Every time I go back to when Woody and Jack and my friends Keith called today and we visited for a little while, and there's no way to thank somebody that's been in your life for 35 years and contributed so much to what we're doing. Keith Hone is one of the really, really extraordinary, rare people on this earth. And a lot of you met him, a lot of you know who he is. In our 7-Step Masters program, we try to take you from your ordinary self to perhaps who you could maybe next become. And for most of us, we just aren't real sure that we have it in us. And we've lived with that kind of circumstance and that kind of thinking process our entire lives. And if you look at this and say, I don't think I could ever learn to do that, man, that's a mistake, because you just don't know at the moment how to do it. But I promise you, you can learn. And when you can begin to do stuff that's a little bit better than what most people around you think you can do, that lights up everything for yourself. This is my favorite photograph in my entire career. I talk about it often because I just think this is the example of life. There's an extraordinary you in every one of us. We're here for something. We're here with extraordinary perspectives. What we've gone through in our own lives has given us a vantage. It's given us a viewpoint. It is something that we then can pull into our lives and begin to enhance anything and everything within us. Today they posted up on Entrepreneur Magazine, there's 2 types of people in the world. There's the people that watch things happen and people that make things happen. At some point I realized that I wanted to be somebody that was going to make something happen. And I don't know what point this is for most people. It's a very personal kind of a thing. It's like a door opens and you've got the choice to either step through the door or not. And those who step through the door, then they can look back, and I think today, I got to tell you, I'm going to tell you a little later of how this last couple of days for me has been absolutely unbelievable in almost every way. Treat people as if they were what they ought to be, and you'll help them become what they are capable of being. Ron, this is one you need to put into your book. Ron's composing a course that's kind of the summation of what he's been doing with his last few years of his life. And for all of us in the INE Network, Gary Price did the piece with the Native Americans helping each other climb, and it's called They Rise Highest Who Lift As They Go. And this is the lifting function. To me, this is one of the basic core things of human existence. You start helping other people figure out how to achieve a dream, then you will discover even more within yourself. It seems that's part of the process. I got a call from this young man from Idaho, and he was up in Jackson Hole area of Wyoming, and they were doing an installation of glass in a really, really expensive home in Jackson Hole, and he had acquired some of the rarest glass on earth, and the designer wanted the patina taken off the glass, but the glass was so expensive and so rare, he didn't dare touch it. And everything else that they had looked at with sandblasting was going to hit it so hard that they were just afraid. And he asked me if I could do it. He was going to do it first, and I said, you know what? You better bring that down and let's you and I both take it on and see if we can't do it together. And so I did it right out in the parking lot in front of the buildings, and it was a crazy day. Oh my Lord, I made a mess, but we got it done. And those moments are things you never forget. They stay with you from then on. When you can do what other people cannot do, and it ends up being, I want to see that glass installed so bad. I don't know if I ever will, but I sure had an awful lot of fun doing it. Tammy gave me a Wayne Dyer's book. You can see clearly now, and I've followed Wayne Dyer for as long as he's had a career, and we are very close in age. And recently passed away, and it's just so interesting when I started to read some of the things that he has mentioned in this new book are the ways that help you find your way. That if there's some grand design for everything, then everything's happened for a reason, and you're exactly where you are at the moment to do what? And I think it's to take these whispers, these ideas, these little thoughts that come to you and say, well, it's like the pieces of a puzzle. You find this one fits in here, and then you find that one that fits over here, and then gradually you begin to put the puzzle together that is your own individual life. And I apologize for not being quite as sharp. I shot these last night with my camera on my phone, and they're not quite as deadly as I'd like, but listen to some of the comments he made. From my perspective here today, I can see quite clearly that Emerson and Thoreau have been angelic lookouts for me through my adult life. Their words, like beacons of light in a clouded world, I first became aware of their messages of transformation and higher awareness when I was a young boy sitting in the principal's office, but I knew that something magical was being ushered into my life. Look at that word right there. The #1 word in the marketplace right now is transformation. And it's because so many people just feel deeply inside that they're not getting at what they have been put here to do. I wasn't chasing success, I was pursuing my own inner vision. If one advances confidently in the direction of their dreams and endeavors to live the life which is imagined, they will meet with success unexpected in common hours. That's hanging on my wall, and it's been on my wall for a long, long time, the exact same quote. This is how powerful I believe our thoughts and intentions are throughout our lives. I see now from a clearer perspective that every moment of our existence holds an infinite number of possibilities. Every minute contains the potential of a miracle. The strongest knowing within us about what we are going to do or become, eventually being lived out right then and there, even though we haven't yet experienced it in our everyday reality. A thought that persists is a thought that is aligned with the divine mind. See, I talk about this reoccurring. You put it in your journal, and then all of a sudden something else shows up, and then something else shows up, and it just keeps coming back to you and back to you that what you ought to do is this or that. It's actually a part of the oneness that just that, one, no division, just one experience, which is now. When I contemplate what all of us are capable of experiencing when we allow ourselves to reach our own full potential, it's just the most amazing thing. This fire inside takes off. You ignite something inside of you that you didn't yet know. And all of a sudden you begin to realize, oh my hell, I'm onto it. Okay? Peaceful and productive life is worth more than all the other worldly stuff. Those who mind their own business and cultivate their own garden. I chuckled when I underlined that one right there. I thought, oh, if that's not how it is. Every time I read this passage from Voltaire, I see the 10-year-old boy I was contemplating his secret garden, and unbeknownst to him at the time, setting the stage for a lifetime of encouraging others to eschew the ordinary life and truly tend to their own garden. Can you see a sculpted eggshell in the middle of a whole bunch of ordinary eggshells? At the time, of course, I wasn't aware of all the future implications that these early experiences were to offer me. This is, he describes his early life in the front end of the book, and this is now from a position of being able to see much more clearly, which is hindsight. I know that every single encounter, every challenge, and every situation are all spectacular threads in the tapestry that represents and defines my life, and I am deeply grateful for all of it. Does that get really close to threads of interest? When you can come into something new, you open a new book, you hear a new song, you bump into a new person, and you start mixing on a basis that's extremely good trade. I don't know how it gets any better than that. It gives us a power to live our lives at extraordinary levels. In a universe that has no accidents, a universe that is divinely orchestrated, it seems clear to me that this lady, or fourth grade teacher, was in my life to awaken passion within me for going way beyond the ordinary. This teacher took him and really put him under her wing and really started to show him his potential. And up to that time, he had been in foster care continuously, and he didn't think he had any potential. This experience opened my life to a passion for greatness, for achieving miracles, and for believing that there are no limits to what one can accomplish if one tunes in to the power of the invisible world that is our birthright. And this is the one I like the most. The idea of there being a secret place, either in the world or in one's own mind, really fascinates me. He came up with this concept when he was 10. I was able to pull mine out at 7. And I've talked about it often. All of you that know me or have been in on the shows or webinars before know I have my imagination committee, and I play and have played there in my mind for the last 60 years, okay? In some incomprehensible way, everything is connected. And everything happens for a reason. His younger brother nearly drowned, and he remembers the moment and the time, and it just traumatically affected his brother for most of his living life. For all of you who have known me for a long time, know that on the 24th, this next week, it's the roughest day in my entire life. This is my daughter Tara, and we lost Tara 10 years ago on the 24th. My two precious daughters, this is Tamika, just flew back from Mexico. She's here today and going to be with the family and mix with the family for a few weeks. And a lot of you watched me suffer and struggle and go through this absolute horrible human circumstance, and yet somehow still find a way to go on. Because losing someone is the most common thing. It's as common as gravity. And not one of us are going to get out of this experience alive. But you have to somehow try and say, well, what happens? How? I don't understand why to this day. But I still have to be like, I mean, what Wayne wrote in his book, and I read last night, really started to change, even now, my thinking and an attitude about something that's so difficult and so challenging to deal with, and yet it still can come around. Yesterday I went out to move some boxes in the garage, and I moved a box I haven't moved in quite a long time, and I opened it up and I began to dig through it, and a lot of my junk's in there, and all of a sudden I pulled out this blue metal ring binded little thing, and I didn't even know what it was until I opened the first page. And out of nowhere I got, "Thanks for everything, Dad," in my daughter's handwriting. And I hadn't seen this in years. I didn't know it was even there. And all of a sudden it was just like, holy cow. And I went downstairs, I sat in my chair. I think I was in that damn chair for 4 hours, just soaking it in, just realizing that there has to be more going on than any of us are aware. the odds of this showing up in my life like it did, and under the circumstances, in this week, how could that? It just should not have happened. Okay. And every time you see something like this, and you begin to realize that what's going on with this new technology is a like-minded mixing that humanity has never known before. If you bump into somebody who's doing great things with social media and you start paying attention and mixing with them and what they're doing, all of a sudden Martin begins to influence as well what you're doing. And you begin to realize that, you know what, I can figure this stuff out. And you begin to leverage what it is with this social media thing. Now, I bumped into Alex a long time ago, and I've interacted with him over a long period of time, and then all of a sudden he's mixing with Martin. And Alex had a hangout class that he was teaching that was kind of a series of classes that he did. And I paid this kid $200 to help me begin to learn more about how social media actually works. And in the beginning stages, this kind of counsel is just, to me, is just huge. Opinions don't count for anything. They are someone's opinion about life and living that they've conjured up and has no basis of experience. They don't really know because they've not really done it. But everyone has an opinion. And when I mean, it took forever for me to uncover, discover, develop, master, and share. It's just, it hit me one night. I'm just going, what are we really doing here? And when we try and help people discover their talents and their gifts and then do something with those, a cooperative of helping each other do that, to me, is exactly what Opportunity Intersection is all about. Yeah, we're all really good at going down the freeway of life, but you got to spot these little offshoots of opportunity and take your life in some new directions. And Woody used to call them expensive lessons. When I learned things the hard way, he would remind me, that's an expensive lesson, Jensen. There's just very little worthwhile that's free. And yet most people, that's how they make their decisions. If it's cheap and easy, I'll do it. If it's expensive and difficult, I won't touch it. And you can bootstrap and make this whole thing work, but it takes a lot longer to do it that way. And as I've tried to put together my imagination committee and have it influence in a visual impact for other people and pass that on down to my grandkids, I just have such a fun time thinking over the history of my 38 years now how far the carved eggshell has taken my life. I see all the new kids on Google Plus and Facebook that are banging out nice, new, beautiful things, and I think, oh, if you can just stay with it, if you can just see the big picture and realize what it really can do for your life from an aesthetic perspective, all of a sudden you have so much more potential. In 1994, I got the chance to go to a trip with Jack Solomon to Jerusalem to dedicate the Zion's Gate in Jerusalem's wall. And Fred Adams, who was the founder of the Shakespearean Festival, was on that trip. And I've heard of Fred, but I had never had the chance to meet him. And Fred started in 1959 in a little tiny college in a little tiny Utah town, and it's now the third leading Shakespeare festival in the world. He gets so dang many awards now. But it was years and years and years of struggling with no budget and no support. And in a tiny little iron mining town, I mean, the odds of Shakespeare taking off and doing well there is just, it's just unbelievable. And as I started doing these books, I engraved crystal books for him, and we just literally made one step at a time until every time someone was a presidential supporter of his, we did a crystal book for him and gave it to them as a thank you gift. And Fred's being honored Saturday. It's going to be one of the really great moments because he's mixed in my life so aggressively. But it's more from a mental support. It's a leading lighthouse. Someone who says, if Fred can do it, if I can do it, then so can you do it. And as you begin to see what might happen and what might be a part of your future and what you're next going to accomplish, you have to realize that you're either crashing into yourself constantly and your life is continuously in an uproar, or you're moving it in a direction where it's gradually starting to thin out and become really, really productive. I quote this often because it's my friend and my major patron's favorite person. And Rudyard Kipling wrote the poem If, and every time I go in to check my friend and sit down and visit with him at his executive desk, his 22 pounds of gold clock is on the table, but my crystal engraving of the Rudyard Kipling's word is right next to it. And I just can't tell you how many pieces I've done in the last 30 years. I have done one after another of projects that were hand engraved crystal, lead crystal. I've done promotions and gifts. I've done optical grade crystal. There's just absolutely nothing. I can't think of a single thing they carry that I haven't somehow personalized. And the second you begin to realize what the potential really is there, then this quote that Jack he's got it memorized, and I never have bothered to do it. But I keep 6 honest serving men. They taught me all I know. All I knew, their names are what and why and when and how and where and who. I gave them all a rest. I sent them over land and sea. I send them east and west. But after they have worked for me, I gave them all a rest. I let them rest from 9 to 5, for I am busy then, and well as breakfast, lunch, and tea, for they are hungry men. But different folk have different views. And did you get that one right there? Right there is the really, really important sentence. Because it's how you view these servants and whether you use them or not. Even when you have them and you don't use them, then they might as well not exist. I know a person small. She keeps 10 million serving men who get no rest at all. She sends them abroad on her own affairs. From the second she opens her eyes, 1 million hows, 2 million wheres, 7 million whys. You guys starting to figure this out? How we do with what we have is the whole thing. And when we can see things sometimes and then not see them the rest of the time, oh boy, that's an issue. And I hope that these sit-down sessions are what I'm doing it mostly to talk to myself, to try and help me see and understand what next I should be playing with. And then I try and just hang in there. I don't think I can claim anything else. All I've done is just stay with it. So now, as we're beginning to touch and move into this web, internet, social media business more and more, what might be the results? I've been watching a kid from San Diego that posts what he's making. He actually shows you his balance sheet. And you get to watch, and he's now clear up to $80,000 a month playing off of referrals from social media. And what I watch for is this kind of success, this kind of degree, and then I try and figure it out, because I see mostly you're doing it for free and just playing with it aggressively. But there are some who are beginning to figure it out. I'm playing with one more big dream. I love to fly, and this little pedal jumper, oh man, I want to go putzing around Utah and our lakes and playing with this little bugger so much. And I keep thinking, well, maybe my flying days are over. And then I come back and I think, oh, why? Why put it away? Wouldn't that be just the most clever thing to get involved with? I crossed paths with all of you who put your websites up and you've got your Google Plus accounts going, and I get to watch your progress and see you make it from one step at a time to something else, to something else, to something else, and opportunities just keep showing up. And people like Jose, I can't tell you how proud I am of how far he's come. And I saw this inlaid ivory in that guitar, and I would have been willing to do that just to meet B.B. King. And once you see these little moments and say, well, or maybe it won't be doing it here, but it might be doing ivory inlay somewhere else. And so a time with Craig or Keith to teach you how to do artificial ivory inlay, you got to put artificial ivory in here. The regular old ivory inlay is not going to hold up, not under this much abuse, but our artificial ivory would. I remember talking to you about this. I remember the moment when Chris and I were in Vernal. We'd stopped into the Wendy's to get a hamburger, and this guy pulled up in his hot rod, and I drove up right beside him, and I asked him how he liked it, and oh my gosh, the passion just flew out of him. And then I get to say, well, it's an old antique car, and it just needs one more thing right here, a little bit of engraving. Because I'm an old car nut too. And you can begin to sense early where the potential is. When it's a thread of interest that you like, then all of a sudden it begins to boil into your story. And that combination, if I don't think I'm wrong, I really think our future is going to be the combined stories of all of us, okay? You're going where most people won't go. You've got to be able to make decisions that are kind of challenging. And that grand dream of what you can accomplish is still the number one thing. You got to find some way to get a fire lit inside of you that won't ever go out. And I hope that's what we accomplish when we're doing this. If you see a picture like this that's posted on the internet, does it speak to you? Do you see what we're playing with? And is there a way for this to then influence the next while in your life? I have so many occasions to talk to people who get really excited about carving eggshells. The time they get the equipment and learn how to do one or two, and they try to sell it and it didn't work, they quit. And I don't understand that kind of thinking. I can't believe that you would get that close to this kind of potential and not nudge it just a little bit further to where you can actually make it work. I used to apologize for the fact that it was an uphill challenge, but I don't anymore. Downhill is easy, and it is not the way that any of us should go. Uphill is what we're trying to do, and the circle we're involved with is that inspirational effort and the encouragement effort to try and keep us going. I watch for people that are encouraging kind of people. If you're the kind of person that will share your enthusiasm and passion for what you've learned how to do, I love that. To me, that's what we're all after. That is what we all ought to actually do. So from tonight, for the next few days, try and watch for your own individual uniqueness. Wayne Dyer's book is boiling down all of the things that happened to him. And from hindsight, looking back over his life, I went the exact way I was supposed to go. And I did package what I learned how to do and turn around and help support humanity with what I learned how to do. And that's exactly what the 7 steps is designed to do. Take you from the amateur of something to the master of something extraordinary. So if you're part of the circle, congratulations. If you're not there yet, I'm hanging a carrot out in front of you. We are going to go hunting and fishing and take on the marketplace together. Okay. I think I got everything back now. When I go through things that I've said and talked to with myself for 35 years, this has been such a huge part of my existence. And there's some things, some concepts and ideas and quotes and things that are just such a favorite part of your thinking, and you attach to them strongly, then those are the things I think you should really concentrate on next most. And if you can somewhat see that you're playing with something that has a ton of potential, then you've got an option. If you never see that you're gradually making any progress, then I don't think you'll stay with it. It's really important to see, here's where I was, and here's where I am, but here's where I'm headed. And that triangulation that's a GPS. That's three spot perspective that allows you then to really zero in on your potential. So I'm hoping that you'll do just exactly that. That you'll get to a point where you're actually really got a chance of succeeding with whatever's next on your list. Anybody else want to offer a little bit of advice before we wrap it up? Ron?
Well, you keep talking. I'm getting an echo here. I don't know why. Is that any better? No, I still get it. I have no idea. But anyway, you're talking about social media, and I've been at your advice working at it for quite a while now, and it's paying off. A year ago, I was on Chef Dennis Litley's Hangout, and been in contact with him. We've, done hangouts. He asked me to participate in some of his on-site
shows,
where I was back in the studio here, and he was out on the road. And then my wife and I are going to be going on vacation. And Monday he was on a show that I do over on Blab with some other people, and I told him I was coming up to Orlando, and he said, "Well, Ron, we're going to have to get together." He said, "You let me know when you get up there," and he says, "I'll come over where you're at," and he said, "We'll get together and spend some time together over the weekend." So I know what's going to happen.
Me too.
And so it's just you never know what's going to happen and how it's going to pay off, and I don't know where it's going to lead, but right now he is doing a lot of with the Florida Tourist Bureau. He does a lot of presentations where he goes to bed and breakfast and he videotapes them, videos them, and then he gives the video, he cuts them up and then gives the videos back to wherever he has the arrangement with. And so I can see where there's potential there. I don't think he has a thank you program, but he's going to learn about it over the weekend.
Yes, absolutely. One of the great stories of my life was I read an article about a guy that got caught in a snowstorm in D.C. He was a salesman. He got caught in a snowstorm, and he sat in the hotel because he couldn't go anywhere for a while. And he got thinking about, what do I know best? What do I like best? What's my thread of interest? And he loved traveling and finding these exotic little getaway places. So he started finding these little getaway places, and he'd do a page about this one, and a page about this one, and a page about this one. Well, this is back in the day before social media. So he's doing the newsletter, and he started that newsletter and get subscriptions, and he was making $10,000 a month off that 2-bit little newsletter thing that he'd bothered to push on into the economy. And R.C. Cook, the same way, psychiatrist, and he started the knife sharpening school in Conroe, Texas. And he told me, Lou, he says, I make so damn much more than my psychiatric profession ever. And he says, and there's no trouble with it, no struggle with it. He says, it's just something I love doing, and I figured out how to make it pay. And every one of them started with a profitable hobby. Every one of them. It is this hobbypreneur slice of the economy. I don't know if I'll ever see it hit hard like I wish it would, but I think it will eventually become the very best way to start an enterprise, is to go at it from the point of a hobby, which all of you have had experience with. It'll be really, really fun. Jay, tell everybody what you told us in the green room about your piece that you just posted. Tell them where to go find it. And
you're talking about the exhaust cover?
Yeah.
You can find that. There's actually 3 different places you can find it at. One is under in Lance Larson's. Was a passion for power carving.
Community for power carving.
Yeah, his community. You can find it in my motorcycle engraving community or in the Harley Davidson community.
Okay.
That's where you can find it. It's just a fun piece to do, something I got to play with. It was actually an old piece that a guy was fixing to throw away.
No kidding.
And I just said, hey, can I have that? And he says, sure, take it. And I showed it to him after I got it done. He goes, can I buy it back?
Oh, did he really? Oh,
yeah.
What a great story, Jay. Oh, that's fun.
It's just one of those deals, like Ron said, you never know what's going to happen.
No. And isn't it kind of a delight? I mean, it's like Christmas. You just get to bump into things, and if you chase it even a little bit, you just say, you know what, this feels like opportunity to me. I'm going to play with it a little bit and see what can happen. Dyer,
well, it's just like with the rallies that I do. My first year, man, I wanted to give up.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot going on, but then the second year it got better, next year it got better, and this year, I've already got, people sending me emails saying, hey, what's your schedule going to be so I know where to find you?
Yep. And that demand will just continue and continue and continue. And the thing that makes it happen is exposure. You have to figure out ways to get it in front of humanity. So, God, I'm proud of you, Jay. And it's a beautiful piece. You told us about it in the green room tonight, and I haven't seen it yet. So, jump on the internet and find it just that fast, huh?
That's it.
That's it. All of you from this webinar last week, you are beginning to do more reshares. So that little arrow and that little fork thing at the bottom of everybody's post, that's what we're not doing enough. We need to repost it. Every time you see it in your stream doesn't mean that everyone else sees it in your posted stream, and you need to grab it and reshare it and move it out into the marketplace even more. So while you're going through your stream every day, just make note and reshare as often as any of us post something up. That'll help it grow immensely. Anybody else got a comment they want to make on tonight's show? I hope there's something in there that triggers a little extra enthusiasm for you. February is cabin fever, and February is always a challenging time. And the economy tends to suffer in February because nobody wants to do anything. The money quits flowing, and now the news and the media and the politics and everything has gone clear berserk, and it just tends to consume everybody's brain, and it makes it really hard to manage business and make things work out. So we're doing a lot of cleaning and fixing and repairing right now, kind of taking advantage of that time. But it's a good time for idea generating. I've talked about it often with the seasons, the 4 seasons. Winter's not the last season. Winter is actually the first season. That period of time is when inspiration begins to flow into your life long before there's actually a seed or initial plant. And then spring is the second, and summer's the third, and then harvest is actually the last season. I think if you'll start thinking about your productivity that way and shift it one more season earlier, you can literally start to create some new ways of thinking, some new ways of looking at your own circumstances. All right, troops, thank you for sitting in and visiting with us, everybody, tonight. I hope there's something here to put it down. Put it in your digital journal. Don't lose it. Snag those pictures and those quotes and ideas. And yesterday I went through my entire last year. Google Photographs has captured everything you've posted in a year. And you go down through Google Photographs and realize you can just look at the story of your life. And it will help you read yourself better. It will help you to see the strengths and the weaknesses a little bit more. It's a really, really valuable tool. Kind of exciting to see the progress. Take care, everybody. I'll see you same time next week. And hang in there, okay? Send me emails, anything that you need some help with. Or give us a call on that 800 number. We'd love to help you. Good night, everybody.